In this episode, we'll take a look at the new Deity D3 Pro shotgun microphone. First off, this entire episode is recorded with the D3 Pro. It is boomed out of the frame just here, and it's recording into a Zoom H1, the original H1, just mounted up here on a boom pole, and then we sync it up to the video in post. Now, first of all, who is this microphone for? Well, I would say that's first of all for people that realize the importance of quality sound and the overall experience for their viewers when they take the trouble to record quality sound. I think it's really well suited for solo shooters that don't have the benefit of having a separate sound person. It's really helpful in cases when you're shooting on a gimbal, and you can attach this microphone either to a friction arm or even to the top of the camera if your gimbal is able to handle the additional weight. It's also for people who don't have a lot of budget right now, but want to grow into more sophisticated sound workflows over time. So first up, let's give you some audio samples of the D3 Pro recorded into a Panasonic GH5 and compare that to the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, which is probably the nearest competitor. Here we have a recording with the Panasonic GH5 and the Deity VMic D3 Pro mounted on top of the camera. The camera and mic are approximately 3 feet away from me. And we have the input level set to the lowest on the GH5, so that's minus 12 dB, just like with the Rode VideoMic Pro. And we have the gain set to 4 out of 10 on the D3 Pro. So this is what that sounds like. No processing done to the audio here whatsoever, except a loudness normalized to minus 23 LUFS, just so that we have comparable loudness between the two samples so that you can compare them and hopefully be able to draw some of your own conclusions. So this is based just on my voice. Let's give you a few moments of silence to hear what that sounds like. Here we're recording with our Panasonic GH5 and the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. It is mounted on top of the camera, and the camera is approximately 3 feet from me right here, just so that you can hear what this sounds like with no processing. All we've done is loudness normalize to minus 23 LUFS, which is the European TV broadcast standard for loudness. The reason we're operating at about 3 feet is this is really kind of the ideal distance, that or closer actually. Once you start getting farther away than this, it's going to start picking up a lot more room or ambient sound. So people are often confused when they first get these. They set their camera 6 to 8 feet away. They start recording and think, well, that doesn't sound all that much better than the camera microphone. And the reason is, microphones sound far away when they are far away. And when they're close, they sound, they pick up more of the sound of the person talking and less of the ambient sound around them. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We have the input level set to its default 0 dB on the VideoMic Pro and gain set to the lowest setting on the GH5. So this is what that sounds like. Let's give you a few moments of silence so you can hear that. We did some practical noise tests by measuring those silent portions of the recordings. We recorded all of that down here in my basement with 3 sound blankets surrounding me, rug underneath me, blanket behind me, and there was not a lot of other noise. What we found when we measured that silent section in both the D3 Pro's recording and the VideoMic Pro Plus's recording is that they both sat at about minus 67 dB RMS after we loudness normalized them to minus 26 LUFS mono. That is the same as minus 23 LUFS stereo, which is the European broadcast standard for loudness. What all that means in practical terms, for those of you that understand what any of that means, is that it is a microphone that doesn't produce a lot of self-noise. You're not going to get that hiss and have to worry about cleaning that up in post. It is a clean microphone. Let's also have a look at the polar pattern, which will give us a sense for how much of the off-axis sound it will reject. That is to say, how much of the ambient sound it will not pick up while it's picking up the thing that you're trying to pick up, usually dialogue, but also other sound effects. So this is really helpful in understanding how well the microphone will help you kind of dial in the sound that you want to capture and get rid of the sounds that you don't. Now, of course, this microphone comes in a kit that's really meant for mounting on top of your camera. So they've worked with Rycote, who makes these pro-level shock mounts, and they've custom designed a suspension system that allows you also not only to mount it on top of your camera, but also to move it to the front or the back of the camera, which is really helpful, not only for balancing it on a gimbal, but I think it's also helpful in cases when you're going to be using the viewfinder of your camera. You can move that microphone a little bit more forward so that you're not fighting to get your eye into the viewfinder. And it's also helpful to be able to move the microphone back a little bit if you're using a really wide-angle lens and you need to keep the microphone out of the shot. There are a ton of different recording devices out there with 3.5mm microphone inputs. There are phones, there are cameras, there are audio recorders. The challenge is that they each have different types of inputs. So in some cases, they take a TS 3.5mm, some cases they take a TRS, in some cases they take a TRRS, like smartphones. And in addition to that, each of the manufacturers uses the different connectors in different ways. They send power to different parts of the connector. So that can make things really confusing, and then you have to figure out, okay, which adapter do I need to use to get this to work with my phone versus getting it to work with my camera versus getting it to work with my wireless microphone system. Well, the D3 Pro has gone a long way towards solving that problem by including a microprocessor in the microphone itself that can actually auto-detect what you're plugging into and send the power to the correct pin and also send the audio to the right pin so that your recording device gets a very nice, clean recording. Now, of course, it's not perfect. It doesn't work with every device, but it works with quite a few. And in fact, there's a list over at the Deity website, I'll put a link for that down below, that lists the different devices they've tested it with so far. One of my favorite features with this microphone relative to other camera top shotgun microphones is that it has a stepless dial for adjusting the gain, or the input level. And it allows you to adjust the gain by 20 decibels. So you get a nice wide range, and it's very smooth. The damping is very good. Big step up from the switches that you see on most other camera top shotgun microphones, where you get 3 settings at most. It also has a 2-stage high-pass filter. What that means is that it is a filter that allows you to help cut out wind noise. So sometimes when you're outside recording and the wind blows across the microphone capsule, you'll get this very low-frequency rumble kind of distortion sound, and this high-pass filter will help you to address that issue. There are settings for 75 Hz and 150 Hz. Now, those are always kind of a trade-off. When you set it to 70 Hz, that's not generally going to affect the sound of dialogue sound. If you bump it up to 150 Hz, it'll give you more wind protection, but it will cut into the dialogue, especially of men's voices, not as much women's voices. So it's a little bit of a trade-off, but it's really nice to have that option. Another very nice convenient feature on the D3 Pro relative to other shotgun microphones that are made for mounting on top of your camera is it has an inbuilt lithium-ion battery that is said to power the microphone for 51 hours. Now, I have not done that much recording with it yet, so I can't confirm that it actually lasts that long. However, it's tracking that direction. I've used mine for about 4 hours. When I went to go recharge it to get it back to up to 100%, it was able to charge in about 15 minutes, so even probably less than that. So it seems to be tracking that direction. In any case, I would make it a habit, of course, to charge up after each production day, but easily get you through 2 12-hour production days. At the time of launch, when we've done this review, it runs $199 US, and we'll have links for that down below. That's a great price. If you compare it to its nearest competitor, which I would consider the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, which runs almost $100 more than this, and this seems to have some additional features that the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus does not have. Overall, the pros I would consider, first of all, this is an incredibly versatile microphone. You can do lots of things with it. In the on-camera kit for $199 US, really made for mounting on top of your camera, but they also have a location kit which allows you to mount it on a boom pole. It comes with an additional shock mount that's made for mounting on a boom pole, and it also comes with a 3.5mm to XLR adapter that not only adapts the connection, but also will take phantom power from a recorder, for example, and convert that to plug-in power, which is what the microphone needs. So that's really helpful as well. Another thing that I really like about this microphone is the sound quality. I think overall it sounds quite good. If you're going to put it on top of your camera and the camera's going to be 6 feet away, you're still going to get a lot more room sound and ambient sound than you would if you get it up close. And for example, in this case, we have it up nice and close within 18 inches of my mouth. That's going to be the ideal, but you can use it either way. So again, you have options there. One other thing I really like is that the 3.5mm cable is replaceable. So if it gets damaged or you lose it, you can replace it. Now, of course, you're more likely to lose it because it disconnects from the microphone, but I would rather have the ability to replace it if I needed to without having to send it back to the factory. In terms of build quality, the microphone tube itself is made out of aluminum, and then it appears that there are plastic caps on either end, one on the microphone grill, and then the other for the knob on the back that is the gain knob. And of course, it also comes with this foam windscreen. Now, just to keep everyone's expectations in line, foam windscreens are really helpful for when you have the microphone close, preventing the plosives, that is when someone says the letter P or B. Now, if you're outdoors in 20-mile-per-hour winds, this foam windscreen and any foam windscreen for any microphone is not going to be enough. You will need some additional wind protection at that point. In those cases, you're going to be looking at blimp covers and things of that nature, and this can be mounted easily in one of those. Much easier, incidentally, than the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, which is really not made for that purpose. Now, just like any piece of gear, this is not perfect in every single way. First of all, I did notice that there was some RF interference when I used this plugged into my Rode Link wireless system. I had the transmitter right up next to the microphone, and it looks like all of that RF energy that transmitter was sending out was actually affecting the microphone, and so we got a lot of interference that way. However, if you move the transmitter farther away from the microphone by using an extension cable, you don't run into that problem. So you just have to be careful. Now, this is not really a con, but just something to keep in mind. It doesn't work perfectly with every single device. It can't auto-detect every single device out there. So I would recommend you take a look at the Deity site to get the details on whether it works with the device you're planning to use it with. So an overall summary, if I could only choose one camera top shotgun microphone to spend my money on, it would be the D3 Pro from Deity. It's nearly $100 less expensive than the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus and has several features that make it easier to use in a lot of different situations. The sound is very similar in terms of sound quality, similar self-noise performance, which is really good. It's a great mic for aspiring video and filmmakers that also allows you to grow into more sophisticated types of productions. Even though I have much more expensive microphones, I'm really glad to have this one in my kit as well for those situations where I do need to put something on top of the camera, such as when I'm shooting on a gimbal and those types of scenarios. This is a really great mic for those situations. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. And if you've not already subscribed, make sure you do that. And we'll be sure to get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Talk to you soon.